everybody. Welcome to Talking Disney podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about one of the classic Disney animated films. It is randomly selected by a random number generator, and we talk about the highs, the lows, everything in between of these Disney animated classics. And I'm Rachel, and Stanford's here.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, doing good. We're here to talk about one of the weirdest, but I think entertaining in that way, one of the weirdest offerings in the history of Disney, I would say.
Oh, amen. Yes. It is really an unusual film.
Yeah. It really is just the combining of a ton of random stuff. And I know some people don't really like this movie. There's sort of a divide about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just find it kind of hypnotizing, I would say.
Yes. Likewise, hypnotizing, kind of strangely invigorating.
Yeah.
I
think so. It's a very messy movie, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of fun. So we're excited to talk about it. It's the 35th Disney animated classic. This was released in 1997. And there's a lot of different aspects of this movie that we're going to talk about, and then we'll talk about the plot. But it's this strange combination of a lot of different stuff. Do you remember going to see this movie in theaters?
I do. In fact, I kind of got an interesting story about seeing Hercules. So one of my best friends and his wife were living in New York City in the mid to late 90s. And when Hercules premiered the summer of 1997, they premiered it at the New Amsterdam Theater, where the Lion King played for. I think it's still playing there. I can't remember or maybe Aladdin is playing at the New Amsterdam. I can't remember.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, Disney owns the New Amsterdam Theater in New York, so they were playing it there for like kind of like a 2-week run. They instead of doing a stage play, they were showing the movie, and then also on the night of the premiere, Disney sent the Main Street Electrical Parade from Disneyland to New York City, and then it rolled down Fifth Avenue. So
wow.
I don't know if you remember reading any of that. And I think they might have done kind of a special Hercules float for the occasion. But yeah, there I was with my friends in New York. We were watching the Main Street Electrical Parade. It was so random.
That's really cool.
But anyway,
I think the Main Street Electrical Parade is coming back to Disney World, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's coming back to Disneyland this summer.
Disneyland,
yeah. Like in August, I think is when it's coming back. So,
yeah,
I don't. So it was very interesting. It was packed. The streets were packed with all these New Yorkers, watching this thing, and it was fun. And it was fun to see the movie. Although, as we'll get into the movie sure is kind of weird. But what about you? What was your first time seeing Hercules? I don't
know if I saw Hercules in the theater or not. I cannot remember it. I was 16 at the time, so that was right kind of when I was starting to be too cool for animation,
Right,
sort of
exactly.
and I think I might have ended up seeing it because it got kind of lukewarm reviews.
Right.
So I think I might have ended up seeing it at home video. It was the first time I saw it. I don't know. I cannot remember if I saw it in the theater or not. And it's one that I've grown to appreciate more as I've gotten older. I don't know, when you watch as many movies as you and I do, when you have one of these that's just sort of experimental and nutty, I think you appreciate it more than when you're just an average moviegoer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's definitely the case with me. And I don't remember ever really being kind of excited about it until I was in college, and I first heard I Won't Say I'm Love in a recital. Somebody sang it in one of the local recitals, and I was like, what is that song? And then I went back and realized, there's some really good music in this movie. And one of the weird parts, so this was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, and and bless their heart, they wanted to make Treasure Planet so bad.
Yeah.
They've been wanting to make this Treasure Planet movie ever since before, I think, Little Mermaid. I mean,
that was like one of the first movies that they pitched.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And they thought this was going to be great. And I think that Disney from day one sensed that it was going to be a flop, and they knew it. But Ron and John were such gold after Little Mermaid, Aladdin.
And Aladdin, yeah.
Yeah, that they said, okay, we'll make your stupid film or your the one that we don't want to make. We'll make it
project.
Yeah, we'll make it if you make this one that'll actually be successful and make us money. And so they made the deal. And I don't know. I don't know why they were so in love with the idea of floating traditional ships in space. I don't know why that excited them so much.
It's a good point, because it's so interesting. Treasure Planet's, I think, interesting to look at, but even after that initial concept, you're kind of like, what? You're like, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not the biggest Treasure Planet fan. We'll talk about that someday when the number generator. But yeah, they kind of approached the movie as that they were going to make a comic book movie. And if you think about it from that angle, it really makes a whole lot of sense, because if you think about the comic book movies from the late 90s, you can see some of that influence. Yeah. If you think about Batman and Robin, you think about, some of these very kind of over the top, jokey kind of movies. It kind of makes sense where they were going from.
Yeah, definitely. And to me too, especially this watch, maybe because I've just been watching, I watched a lot of Turner Classic movies. It has such a sense of screwball comedy.
Yeah.
As well as then, I had heard an interview with Ron and John, and they were talking about the character of Meg, and how Meg was all they based her off of a Barbara Stanwyck kind of role. I mean, that's kind of who they'd picture playing her if it was, if they were directing a live action film. And I'm not wanting to give Disney any ideas. I'm sure there's probably one already, in progress. Although I think there's a stage version of this in progress. I'm sure.
I heard that they were thinking of a stage version of some kind.
I love that comic book movie idea, though, Rachel, because I think that almost helps you understand it better, or maybe even almost accept it better, rather than just thinking what just happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a lot of takeaways to Superman. There's no denying. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a son of the gods, being raised by mortals, figuring out his strength, how he can use it to serve people. I mean, it's pretty much Superman.
Mm-hmm. With the Earth parents, and
that
couldn't have children, kind of thing, and
right. And some people I've heard complain that Hercules is too bland of a character, that he's kind of a male version of a Mary Sue character. But I guess my argument about that would be that the whole rest of the movie is so busy that I don't mind having a bit of a bland lead.
Well, he's kind of like the foundation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're kind of grateful in some way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That you need like a calming influence on the movie, and but you also have a lot of other influences. This is why it gets messy. But you have definitely, obviously, there's the Greek influences,
right?
Which loosely, but it's there. There's some influences of the original Greek myth,
and as well as kind of influence the design aesthetic too, right? Because they really wanted it to feel, I think, like you were in Greece, Yeah.
Well, and then you also have the influence of gospel music,
right?
Which was to apply sort of the Greek chorus idea, but to make it sort of literal was very clever. I think
it's very clever, and to turn it into the kind of gospel music / meets girl group kind of thing,
I think
it's very clever too.
Yeah, it has a definite Vegas I think, feel to it at times. It's very strong parody at times.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you look at something like this and then look at Shrek to come out just a few years later, there's some definite similarities for sure.
Yeah. And then, you know, in a way, kind of like a sports movie, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't think of that, but you're right. An underdog kind of movie. Yeah, it's interesting. And you've got the comic book element. You've got the elements of, we'll talk more about this, but sort of a rock element, Pink Floyd, psychedelic kind of element with the artwork of Gerard Scarfe, who is particularly in the fight with the dragon and then the Titans. I think that's where you see his influence the most. That they brought him in.
Yeah, he's such an interesting. I think he has such an interesting style. You know, seeing some of his comics and whatnot, and I can't say that I'm neither an aficionado or even an expert on his work, but I've seen some of his political cartoons and different things, you know, that he's drawn. And then looking at some of the concept art that I've seen that he did for Hercules, what surprised me, frankly, is how much of his aesthetic made it into the final film. I mean, it's one of those films that you see it in it has a strong Disney look, but then also in a lot of ways it doesn't at all, you know, which I thought was kind of cool. That, and I wonder if that was a bone that Disney management was throwing to Ron and John. They're like, okay, you can't make Treasure Planet, but kind of feel free to be a little more adventurous with your, you know, with your character designs or what off. But frankly, though, too, I think that that's maybe one of the problems that some people might have with Hercules, because it's not that it's hard to look at, but it's sure different.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. For
sure. And so it starts out, the movie, with the narrator giving our sort of traditional narration.
And it's Charlton Heston, which I absolutely love.
I forgot about that. Yeah. And then he gets interrupted by the muses. And, you know, they're very sassy. You mean Hercules, you know, kind of a thing. And all of that. Do you like the muses? Do you like that?
Well, I love the muses, because again, I think it's a very clever way to do, you know, this ancient Greek story, right? You know, or quote unquote ancient Greek, right? Even though, you know, maybe only by name, or, you know, with some of the characters or the setting. But I love the Greek chorus, and I love the Alan Menken music.
I do too.
And I think,
I almost always disagreed with the movies in the 90s, sort of the big figure skating song, you know, the I Want song or whatever, that would be everyone's favorite. Usually that wouldn't be my favorite. Yeah. And it's also the case here. I like the gospel songs so much better than Go the Distance. So much better. And I just think, how does Alan Menken know how to write gospel? Like, he can write anything he wants. He's just amazing. He wants.
He's amazing. And the lyrics are so fun. I believe it's David Zippel who's the lyricist on this one. And she, again, so clever. And I'm with you. It's like, wow, he can go do any genre. I quite like the Go the Distance song, but I'm with you. I think I almost like the more sassy gospel songs from the muses.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that really carry the film.
I love A Star Is Born.
Oh, I mean, I do too. I absolutely love it, and that just is, it just really leaves you feeling after the movie feeling so good.
Yeah.
Perfect placement.
The gospel truth. That's the gospel.
Yeah, the gospel truth.
It's so good.
And then that the song with Meg, the I Won't Say I'm in Love.
One Last Hope is better. I mean, I just think they're all better.
and Zero to Hero is really fun.
Yeah.
And that also has such fun animation. I know we'll get to it, but I mean, I'm with you. Because I think there's Go the Distance. Again, I like it just because but it almost, in a way, it almost feels out of place in this movie because the movie's so zany.
Yeah.
And then here's this thing, this power ballad that again, I know it's the classic I Want song, but anyway, for what it's worth. But and also that song that Phil, the trainer, sings, is that You're One Last Hope.
One Last Hope, yeah.
again, super fun, classic Alan Menken. But
I still like the gospel songs
the
better.
gospel songs
So good.
are a million times. Yeah, they're the best. They're the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the muses were voiced by and sung by Lilius White LaChance, Roz Ryan, Cheryl Freeman, and Vanessa Y. Thomas.
They're good.
So they did a great job, those ladies.
Good singers, and then animated so well.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the character designs and how they integrated them into the film.
Yeah. I hope they give them even more stuff to do, more songs, more in the Broadway musical.
Absolutely. You know, in a lot of ways, they remind me of Alan Menken and Howard Ashman's Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah,
adaptation.
That's a good comparison.
How they've got the girl group that they're the narrators of that story. You know,
yeah,
the play and the film.
And when you watch this movie, you really get a feeling that everybody, from the musicians to the animators to everybody, was just dying to do something different, dying to just try. And it feels experimental, even like I said, in the music, but just in every way. I just feel like you could just tell it was sort of the end of this Renaissance period, and it was just kind of a burst of, we're just going to try a bunch of stuff and see what sticks. But it starts out with, so we get that little bit with the narrator, and then the muse is introducing us, and it starts out with the birthday party, basically, for Hercules, where everybody's coming
up on Mount Olympus.
Yeah, everyone's coming to pay their respects, and this is when Zeus makes Pegasus, and that's pretty cute, baby Pegasus.
And don't you just love? I love, again, the great character designs, because they're all so different, and I love how they are all given kind of this different color shade, and they're also like translucent, and they kind of glow.
Yeah.
I just love how the Greek gods are designed. I think that's really, really fun.
Do you think it's like super random that they have Paul Schaefer in this?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like,
what's going on?
It's only like one scene that makes sense, where it's at the end where he's playing the keyboards and singing. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, why is Paul Schaefer? I
don't know. It's like because it's not even in like a satisfying kind of cameo way,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, haha.
Yeah, like what does he have to do with Hermes? It's just like I don't understand either.
It kind of made me wonder if maybe they had a couple other ideas and then they didn't pan out, and so he's just kind of randomly in the movie.
That's what I'm wondering too, is that somehow his part might have just been cut.
Yeah. And so this is where we get
Rip Torn. Can I mention also Rip Torn?
Yeah.
Who is the voice of Zeus, who just died last week? So
that's true. Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, and
recently?
he's got a very distinctive voice. So that it was fun to have him in that role. And this is where we first get introduced to Hades, and he's definitely James Woods as Hades. Is definitely the standout of the film.
Absolutely.
As far as characters, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hands down.
Mm-hmm. He's hilarious.
He is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people don't like him now because of his politics, but as far as this role, he was really good. And
he was so good. And the animation, I just thought was so good. Again, his character design, you look at Gerald Scarface design, what Hades, and again, they really captured it, I thought, in the film. And I love how his flames change color depending on his mood. Everything about it, so cool.
Well, and I love the whole design of the underworld, because after we're done with the birthday, then we go down to the underworld, and I don't know, it looks kind of like a Pink Floyd album. Like
it does.
It looks really just cool, psychedelic kind of.
It is. It's very psychedelic, and again, so contrary to what we've seen, what kind of the style that we have seen throughout the Disney Renaissance.
Yeah, definitely very different. And I don't know, just lots of really creative touches. Like I really think it's clever, the idea of the sort of the string, the wire, whatever you want to call it, the fates cut it, and that's symbolizes their death, and or it literally causes their death, one or the other. And I thought that was very creative, and I kind of feel like the fates in this movie are kind of like the three witches or whatever they are in the Black Cauldron, but done right, better.
Done better. Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. They're really done well, and they feel like it's like a combination of classic mythology, but then also they're really funny.
Yeah.
Like their interaction with James was how, since they know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how he gets all frustrated. They're like, we know, and then he's like, then his hair explodes. I know you know.
What do you think of Pain and Panic? Do you think they're fun?
I think it's a guilty pleasure. I really like Pain and Panic. And I know that's probably, I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but I can't believe their character designs got left in the film, because they're really unique looking. You know what I mean? They're really, and they look like they just have jumped off the page of one of these Gerald Scarf drawings. But I think Bobcat Goldthwait, I think he's funny. I like his voice. I think it's funny. And the guy who voices Panic, is it Matt Frewer, I believe his name is. I think they're funny. But what about you? What's your take?
No, I enjoy them as well. I think they're a lot of fun, and they give us a lot of funny moments between them and Hades.
Yeah, and again, kind of the classic bumbling idiots that work for the bad guy, right?
Yeah. Villain sidekicks. Yeah, I think I enjoy them.
Yeah.
And so they're supposed to get rid of Hercules. It turns out that they don't 100% get rid of him. He doesn't lose all his immortality, but he's found by this farmer couple, and you see that he's creating havoc everywhere he goes. He destroys this whole village. And kind of this opening scene. This is obviously the most sort of Superman of this scene and of this movie. And then he gets home, and then his parents tell him where that they found him, and he gets on his journey to try to find his parents and become the true hero that he's meant to be. And that's when we get Go the Distance. This was their Disney's chance to work with the great Michael Bolton. It's very exciting for them.
Michael Bolton sings the end credits version.
And I don't know, it's perfectly fine, but I just think it's the most bland song of the show, and so I don't know.
No, I hear you, and I think it's beautifully done. I think this the animation is that fancy sunset, and all that stuff that is classic for this type of I Want song. But in a lot of ways, it feels so out of place because the movie's so zany.
Yeah.
That, in fact, I think the whole, even though I know they're trying to establish Hercules, his awkwardness as a young kid and all that stuff, and finally, his parents have to get to a point where they where they give him the truth. That Superman moment with the Kents, that they have to do.
Yeah.
But I hate to use this word, Rachel, but it almost is like kind of boring. Like when he destroys the village. He destroys that little village, and it was like, okay, can we get on with this? Let's get on with the story. And then it becomes almost like this nonstop ride after that.
The movie, it can't be denied that the movie is better when it's not about Hercules.
Yeah.
And so I guess if you're a Hercules purist, then you're going to be upset by that. Yeah. But he goes to try to find his father. He finds his father, and I forgot to write this down, but I think it's here. It might be in the second time he meets his father that they have the scar rug. It's
actually, well, it's when it's actually later. He's getting painted on an urn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you recall. I think it's after the Zero to Hero.
Okay. I can remember.
And we can talk about that because there's also they also do a caricature of Gerald. I keep saying his name wrong.
Oh, do they there? That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's actually the artist painting Hercules, caricature of him.
Oh,
The,
that's cool.
the urn. Yeah.
Yeah, so he meets his father and he gets told to
In the temple, right? He goes to the temple of Zeus.
Right. And he gets told to go and to be trained by Phil. And he gets Pegasus back, but Pegasus is now a grown Pegasus, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he's a grown horse, just like Hercules is a grown dude or a
right.
growing dude.
And that's when he meets Phil, and Phil is very bitter about all the other heroes that he's tried to train, especially Achilles.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of a fun way. They bring up all these other stories from kind of the Greek history or Greek mythology, and Achilles was the one that really broke Phil's heart.
Yeah. He hopes someday he'll be able to say, "That's Phil's guy."
Yeah.
Yeah, and he sings, One Last Hope, just fine.
Which is kind of almost like the Hakuna Matata, in that if I'm not mistaken, that's Hercules grows. I mean, it's like Phil's "I Want" song, but then also Hercules grows in stature and it figures out how to use his strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And then he fights the River Guardian, and that's when he rescues Meg. We first get to meet Meg. Meg is voiced by Susan Egan, and Susan Egan was already part of the Disney family because she had played Belle in Broadway.
Yeah, she was the first Broadway Belle on the Broadway Beauty and the Beast production. I thought I always really liked how they cast her in this film too, and I think she's got a very good voice for the role.
Yeah, and she said there was a panel at the last D23 with Hercules. Yeah. I know, it was amazing, and she was there, and she was saying how she felt like that she was a much more natural Meg than she was a Belle. Even that was much more like her personality, and so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, I think she really aces the role of Meg, because Meg she's vulnerable, but she's also, again, like Barbara Stanwyck, this tough cookie.
Yeah,
who's not messing around and who doesn't need a man.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, she has sold her soul to
Hades
because she was in love with a man, and then he is saved and he ends up dumping her, which is the worst.
Yeah.
But now she's stuck with this relationship with Hades, and so that's pretty good. But yeah, she's a fun character, and so there's just this initial thing, and because Hades thinks that he's gone, he thinks that doesn't have that strength at all. You find out that Meg's working with Hades. Then we get the scene at the big city. He goes, him and Phil, and you get like the
big olive. Yeah.
And you get the little jokes of Taxi Driver and stuff. I'm walking here.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff like that.
Just the whole and you want to buy a sundial and all the jokes. This is where, like, I swear they must have just been in a room for weeks, if not months, and like, let's come up with every big city joke that we could apply to ancient Greece,
Yeah.
And I mean, some of them land and some of them don't. I think my favorite is somebody call IXII. If you remember that one.
I also like the vase light stoplight. I thought that was kind of funny.
I did too. I just think it's just endlessly clever. I love it. Yeah,
it's a really, really fun sequence. And then so Meg kind of tricks him into saving Pain and Panic because they're like little kids. And then he ends up fighting the three-headed dragon.
He fights the Hydra.
Yeah, and this is very Scarface, the dragon. And every time he cuts it head off, it morphs and changes and grows back.
Yeah, and doubles each time he cuts, or triples, I think, because he cuts it off the first time, and then three heads grow back.
Right.
Is the nature of the Hydra, and so That I think they use a lot of CGI in it, but it looks great. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Hydra really looks cool in this film. What do you?
I mean, I like it, but I think it doesn't quite go with some of the, because maybe because of those computer graphics.
Yeah.
This and the Titans, I feel, don't feel like the same. They stick out to me a little bit, but that they feel like they're in kind of another movie. A little bit,
okay.
how stylistic, but I don't hate them, but I don't know. It's fun enough, and so he ends up saving everybody, and he becomes the hero, and we get the zero to hero sequence, which is the best.
Yeah, it's just a blast, and that's where I think a lot of this whole sports motif comes in, because it's like he's become like the Michael Jordan of the day, And, but it's so fun, and the animation is so fun. It's just because it's animation at its most liberated.
Yeah.
It's just it's so quickly edited, and so much is going on, but the music is so fun, and I think it's I really enjoyed watching it again.
Yeah, that's when we get a lot of these parody elements that you'd see later on in like Shrek and stuff. And because Jeffrey Katzenberg was still involved at this point, like I can totally see where kind of a lot of DreamWorks elements are sort of in this movie that then would be kind of become big parts of DreamWorks. But there's jokes about Disneyland. There's jokes about merchandising and all the girls coming after wanting attention from Hercules, and you have Payne wearing the sandals of Hercules.
The air Herc sandals.
And Hades is like, now you're wearing his merchandise,
and he explodes. Yeah.
That's really funny. And so Hades makes a deal with Meg that she will get her freedom if she takes down Hercules. And so she takes him on this big date to play hooky.
So I think it's right before the day that Scar, because Hercules is getting painted on a Grecian urn, and I think he's really feeling frustrated and overwhelmed about his schedule or stuff, and he's wearing this. He's like holding a sword, and then he's got the mane of a lion on his head, and he throws it off in frustration. And Phil uses it to wipe off whatever he had something on his face, and he wipes off, and it's Scar. It's fun. I mean, it's like Scar as a rug, that he's been skinned.
Yeah. So then they go on the date. She's like, "We want to play hooky," and so they go on. He's like just so smitten. And they had some funny lines in there, like he says that it's like that Oedipus thing. I thought I had problems.
Yeah, they went and saw Oedipus Rex on their date.
And I would say that Meg is pretty sexy, like overtly sexual. Than I don't know if we've ever seen. Maybe Esmeralda, maybe I guess would be, but. Aside from her, I don't know. She's just, there's definitely almost a night. Like, I think your comparison with the screwball comedies is really, there's almost like a Veronica Lake kind of almost quality to her, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Very sexy.
She's pretty sexy, and again, and kind of a bad girl,
in
a way. Because I mean, even though Meg got dumped, and she's a victim, really. I mean, of a bad circumstance, getting stuck with Hades. It wasn't necessarily her choice,
Yeah.
But she still, though, it's unusual, I think, for a Disney film, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any female character, or aside from Esmeralda's the only one I can think of that. But even she has sort of a sweetness about her.
Yeah.
That when she's not dancing, I don't think she's that sexual of a character.
To me, I always feel like, and that's again why I think that Barbara Stanwyck reference where you just feel like she's kind of been around the block, you know,
saucy.
And she knows what she's about.
Yeah, and so she says sometimes it's better to be alone and no one can hurt you. But Hercules obviously is completely smitten, and Phil interrupts them and tells Hercules, like, don't trust her. I don't. And he says, I thought you were an all-time champ, not an all-time chump.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good scene. And we also find out that Pegasus is drawn to a girl Pegasus, but it's actually Pain and Panic.
Panic. Yeah, they trick him so they can trap him.
Mm-hmm. And so Hercules makes a deal with Hades to save Meg, and so he's going to lose his immortality, and
Is that for 24 hours, right? So
mm-hmm.
to give the Titans enough time to take over Mount Olympus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so then the Titans, and I don't know, the Titans is just they almost feel more like Transformers, or I don't know, they just feel weird to me. I think the Titans.
Yeah, and I didn't have a problem with them. I think because they get introduced at the beginning of the film on the urn,
Mm-hmm.
and so when the muses are talking about it. So, but I hear what you're saying, because
I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it's just something
right.
I noticed. They just feel a little weird to me.
Sure, yeah.
But Meg ends up getting Phil back and explaining what's going on, but before that, Hades makes a deal with Zeus to save Hercules. So there's all kinds of deals being happening here, and Meg ends up getting her string cut by the Fates, so she's in that pool of, I don't know what you call that.
It's the river Styx.
What's it called?
The river Styx, Styx. Again,
okay.
it's from mythology, and that's where the underground place where all the dead spirits go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like this lifeless, weird, state. I mean, because nobody's really moving. I mean, they're not like swimming. They're just kind of, they look dead, but they're just flowing through this. But yeah, that's just from Greek mythology.
I love the design of that. I think it looks really cool.
Oh, absolutely.
It is kind of like the way that the Army of the Dead in Black Cauldron, the way they're kind of translucent.
Yeah.
And layered, but again, kind of done correctly, done right. It's really cool, and especially when Hercules dives in to try to save Meg, and you see him slowly kind of start to age within the water. It's pretty cool looking, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It's because and as Hercules is swimming through there, because or Hades, excuse me, says to him, by the time you get her, you're going to be dead too. And you can see he's totally kind of like doing this instant aging as he's going through in the water, and the Fates, are pulling, getting ready to cut the string. So we're all sensing Hercules' immediate demise.
But then they try to cut and they can't.
That's right.
Yeah, because he's a god.
He was heroic enough, or whatever. Yeah, that he regained his god status.
Mm-hmm. And so then Hades gets sent into the, I guess, river Styx, as you said. And Hercules has his immortality, but he says to his dad, he says to Zeus, I don't want to be immortal if I can't be with Meg. And that's when we get A Star is Born.
Star is Born, which is my favorite, as we discussed.
Me too. It's so good. And Phil's all proud. Phil's boy.
Yeah. As they've got that really cool constellation of Hercules that the gods put up in the sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like if I wanted to watch something that's just a little bit experimental, then this would be a really fun one to watch, and also that's pretty funny. I think that can't say enough about how funny Hercules is. I mean, not how funny Hades is.
Yeah,
it is so funny and in the role, and so I think that. For the gospel songs, for the humor, for the weird experimental touches, I think it's a lot of fun.
I'm with you. I think it's a really fun movie. It's a super weird movie, and and as you said so well at the first, if you got some familiarity with other type of film genres, it actually makes them, I think, more fun to watch rather than just feeling like, what in the world did I just see? I mean, I remember talking to people, back in '97 after seeing it. And I can't say, right after I saw that I necessarily really enjoyed it or appreciated it. I mean, I thought it was fun. But then also, I was in New York. And so that was fun. And it was so cool to see it in that neat theater and whatnot. But it was more like, what in the world was this movie?
Yeah.
And so it was, it's been great to revisit it, particularly this more recent watch,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really
podcast.
Yeah, it was really fun. My last ranking, I have it at 35. So kind of
Okay.
right in the middle. I have
Yeah.
You'll be mad at me, but I had Peter Pan at 36. It's
Oh, that's fair. I
not
mean,
my favorite.
I know that. It's just, it's subjective.
And then I have Winnie the Pooh at 34.
That 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Winnie the Pooh. Okay.
So then I have Hercules at 35. So that was my last ranking. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty fair. I might have a tad higher. I don't know. There's like, as you like to say, there's sort of the outstanding ones, the middle of the pack ones, and then the not so great ones.
Yeah.
This is solidly middle of the pack, I think.
Yeah, that's where I put this one too. Just in my middle, middle of the pack.
Yeah, very good.
But
All right,
there's fun, and and I think this could really translate well to a stage play.
I think so too. I really do. I think especially if they added more songs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they'll have to add more songs. There's just not enough.
There's just not enough, and I don't know how they're going to do some of these zany things that happen. How is Hercules going to fight the Hydra? Maybe I guess they can do some cool stuff.
Things with puppets and stuff.
Yeah.
But that'll be fun to see. But we had a few comments on Twitter on this one. We have from Eli Sansa. He says Hercules is hilarious. I think Aladdin is similarly hilarious, but Hercules actually rivals Aladdin. Plus Hades is my favorite Disney villain. And then we have a few more. Music Chick 8604 says, I love all the music. Meg is also one of my favorite characters. She just seems so normal, and I love her sarcasm. The SJH Canada says, the Hercules, the animated series, was really good. Lots of famous actors doing guest voices. So that's...
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And that was young Hercules, if I'm not mistaken. But it was an animated series. It was like that period of that very boring part in the movie. If I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. I don't think he had. I
definitely missed all that because
I'm gonna have to look it up. But I don't, and I can't say I was a faithful watcher of it. But I recall though that's when they set the series.
Okay.
So kind of in the middle part of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so Elsie Screen Talk, he says, so underrated. Some of the most underrated music from Disney, particularly Won't Say I'm in Love, Meg is Everything, and one of Disney's funniest films, not to mention Baby Pegasus, is adorable, and I love him.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what they thought on Twitter. And
excellent.
Yes, and so let's see what we get next.
The random number generator.
I know.
It's like the fates.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where's we got number 4. So we are going to do Dumbo. Yeah.
All right.
September will be Dumbo. Our first Golden Era film to talk about.
I know. I'm excited.
Me too. Yeah. So that will be really fun. And so let us know if you're listening. Let us know what you think of Hercules. We would love to hear your thoughts, whether in the comment section or on Twitter. Let's have a discussion. That would be really, really fun. And so, Stanford, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark. And I also have a movie blog and podcast, which is at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes, if you can give us your ratings and reviews, we really appreciate it. And if you're listening on YouTube, you can give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that as well. And consider becoming a patron of all of my content. We have some fun discussions in the Facebook group, and we have the chance for you to assign Stanford and I a movie that we can talk about with a particular pledge. So that would be super fun.
Oh, yeah,
or you could have a chance to pick a family movie night pick. So lots of cool perks for becoming a patron. So please check that out. I'll have the link in the description, and also consider getting a Animation Junkie t-shirt from our merch store. They're a lot of fun too. So that will be in the description section as well. So thanks so much, Stanford, for coming on talking about this with me.
Thank you.
We will, can you believe that we're almost halfway done?
It's hard to believe, Rachel. Hard to
But
believe.
I know.
It's always fun. So thank you.
Yes. So be with us next month for Dumbo. And again, let us know your thoughts, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks.